Hi, it's Michael and Anthony here presenting Small Business Banter. A healthy micro and small business sector means a successful economy and a more vibrant society. Small Business Banter is about helping regional business owners better prepare for the current challenges, but also for the next stage of business success. I'm Michael Kerr, founder of Kerr Capital, advisors to business owners. Each week, with Anthony Turner from the Small Business Mentoring Service, we'll interview a different small business expert or a fellow business owner and get them to share their best tips and insights for you, the listeners. Small Business Banter is brought to you from the studios of 104.7 Gippsland FM and is heard across Australia on the Community Radio Network. Thanks also to our supporters, Kerr Capital and the Small Business Mentoring Service. Okay, so welcome into another edition of Small Business Banter Radio. Today, we're talking with Justin Costello, and Justin's going to introduce himself a little bit. He runs Costello Rural up in Corryong, but he's a second or third generation family business owner. Got some really interesting ground to cover. Welcome in today, Justin.
Good morning, and how are you going?
Great, thank you. Also, co-host Anthony Turner from the Small Business Mentoring Service. Welcome in this morning, Anthony.
Thanks, Michael, and hello to all of our listeners.
Excellent. Justin, look, really appreciate you taking time. Been looking forward to this chat. I'll give you a small rundown, but you're involved in regional rural real estate. It's a family business. I understand you grew up in Corryong, went away, came back, made the right move.
That's right.
And then, but what we're particularly going to cover is some of your personal experiences as a business owner, particularly resilience building coming out of what you saw through the recent fires, and your work with many other small business owners, farmers. So again, welcome. But look, can you just give us a couple of minutes on your journey to where you are today?
Yeah, no worries. Well, my name's Justin Costello. I am a local of the Upper Murray, and basically my father, who came here about 54 years ago, married a local girl, and basically he was the local stock and station agent in the town. From there, I was educated at the Corryong Secondary College up until year 12, and from that time I was exposed to small business from about the age of 4, and it was a very exciting thing because it's basically small businesses trading in the market of livestock, property, and real estate. And so over that time frame, I was really inspired to start business, but I didn't have the grounding, and I wanted to know more. So I was lucky enough to do apprenticeships and sort of work placements with several valuation companies and real estate businesses that actually turned the light on to take my education further, and which led me further to going to Melbourne at the age of 17. And during the summer holidays, I thought I had plenty of time, so after going to Bermagui for a couple of days, I actually took off and did a short course in real estate, which was really fantastic exposure. At that time, I was accepted into a university, which I never actually went to, because from getting my certificate in real estate, it opened up doors into actually being able to pay for my university course, and I did it after hours while I was working throughout the 12 years in Melbourne. From there, I started off as a Richmond supporter and then ended up barracking for Carlton, because at that point of time, Richmond wasn't very successful. So it's been a bit of a roller
all so far that I've heard.
Yeah, so it's been interesting. So I moved into several locations around Melbourne and was exposed to really strong business minds and mentors throughout that period, where I worked in asset management and sales within business. So I did a lot of work with how to create income while actually looking for the grand prize of actually getting some capital out of different projects as well. So really looking into the value add of business. Over the time, I was passionate about local football and also wanting to have a little bit more time to improve my golf game and catch those elusive brown trout in the local streams. So, I was drawn back to the Upper Murray. It's a beautiful area, and at that point of time, my father was in his late 60s, and we had several conversations over a beer to come back and get involved in the business. I was lucky enough to meet a lady, my wife, from Melbourne, and she was excited to move up to the country as well. So after completing a residential development, we moved up to the country, and I started up with the family business at the age of about 31. So
was that a formal handover of the business? Was it a straightforward process or a tricky process?
Look, it's been a long focus. So basically, the ultimate goal was to keep it within the family, and over the 16 years that I've been back, it's about developing that business model that then my father would actually see that it was a continual business, and then we did transition from there. So that was transitioning assets and also having enough skill set to manage the business and then take over the business. So we started off in a format of a family trust, and then we've grown the business from 2 employees to now 12 employees. So it's now in a company, in a limited factor. So that all had to happen over that period, because as a small business, you need capital, but you also need a sound base.
Yeah, it sounds like an interesting and a classic journey in a family business. And I know you're through your work, you're a big advocate for using technology to help business owners, and you get exposed to a lot of business owners. We might come back to that a little bit later. I just to get us started, you work in both Victoria and New South Wales.
Yeah, which has some really crazy things going on. So we have to be licensed within both New South Wales and Victoria. So we have regulations for Victorian laws and New South Wales.
And they're not that different, right?
Yeah, we hold 2 licenses. We hold over 6 trust accounts now, because the way in which the governments are regulating the use of trust funds. So it's an interesting time, but again, with the use of technology and systems, we've been able to change with the new laws and then have a clear presence. The staff, are a big part of that. When we implement new technology, it has to be onboarded. So we use great businesses like AgriWeb, and we spend time training, but we also then end up with champions within our business.
Yeah, look, it's when you talk about implementing technology, you've got to bring staff along with you. At the minute, how do you see prospects out with your clients in the areas you're working in? Are we looking buoyant?
Look, it's been a real turnaround. Say 2020 is probably one of those years that we want to try and reset. I was just talking to the local priest and saying that, it's been a roller coaster, from the start of New Year with the fires, and then we're recovering through February or through January, February, and then we get whacked with COVID. It's just been amazing. I reflect on a time which we have a local race meeting where we invite all our clients along and customers, and we have a really good day. And it's just amazing. The locals get behind it. We have people from Melbourne and everything. And after fires, we have a huge rainstorm. So not only the 1-horse race in the Upper Murray is affected by fires, but then it's affected by floods. So we had a race meeting with no horses. So we still pushed ahead with it. We made technology work. We brought in TVs, and we had TVs up, and we had the Xbox with horse races, and we bet on those. So we implemented our own book.
Did you have any bookies?
Yeah, well, we were lucky enough. We made it work.
All right, excellent. That lead, Anthony. Sorry, you were just about to.
No, I was just curious in terms of the initiative of using the technology for doing something different like that to keep some of the fun going. For the benefit of listeners who may not know, I've spent a lot of time working in disaster recovery and up in the Upper Murray areas in the recent February ones as well, and sort of know and have seen the resilience of a lot of people up there. One of the things that I do notice, Justin, you've been talking about technology and you've been talking about, developing the business, and it sounds that you've, quite well prepared the transition of, of ownership within your business and everything else. I noticed that a lot of small business owners in regional and community areas tend not to be that well prepared. And, even though we know that floods and fires and disasters and, COVID was probably one out of the box that we would never have predicted for those areas, but it's certainly real. How did you find in your local community the level of preparedness, and how do you think people could better prepare for these sorts of impactful events?
Yeah, well, I reflect on my life. Really, we were never prepared for fire. We thought we heard about fires in the 50s, but that was in the old days. So with the onset of technology, we knew that it was getting warmer, it was getting hotter, but we had a real sense of it's not going to happen to us this time. So again, it all comes as a fire season when you get your insurance renewal and says, do you want to insure your hay? Do you want to insure your hay sheds? And, it's a call. It's a call to action. So from what we've been through and what we are now today is very, very different approach to fire season. Fire season was, it gets warm, it gets hot, we go to the swimming pool and we go to the river. But now we get on to the boundaries, we do our fire minimisation work, we actually check our pumps, we check our hoses. And that's all lists. It's all tasks that should be put into a calendar, and it's part of a season. We have 4 seasons in the Upper Murray. We have beautiful autumns, great winters with lots of rain, really strong springs with more rain, which grows grass, which causes grass fires. So the fires came through from the bush, but they were very, very efficient in taking out assets that were underprepared. So again, what we've been able to implement with AgriWeb is, asset lists and tasks around those is to actually, once you get a certain amount of feed, is to understand how to actually to minimise that risk, know where your assets are, where your water points are for fire trucks, and have that equipment serviced regularly. Because a lot of the time during the fires, we lost power and we lost the ability to protect certain assets because the fires came so quickly, and we were underprepared with water source and power and communication. So there's a level of things there that now, which would be the annual checkup in November. And it's sort of like tax, you get it all done because, if you don't, it will burn you at the end of the day.
You'll come back. And on Small Business Banter Radio today, we are chatting with Justin Costello from Costello Rural. And Justin, you listed a long list of things, that go with managing, in that case, a farm, to better prepare yourself. So is your experience that, the recent fires have really galvanised owners, farmers to finally do something about, well, not finally, but to do something more effective with managing risk on their, to their business, on their property by using tech? And has it been the driver that we've, that's kind of tipped some owners into seeing the real benefit of tech?
Yeah, well, I suppose the underlining of tech and farming is being auditable and understanding that you do a fire audit or you do a chemical audit. You start auditing your property so that you are prepared. So again, it's a layer upon a layer of organisation. So, you know, in the past, you do your annual preparation, but you get busy and you get lucky because you have good seasons where you've got lots of grass and you're doing hay, so you don't do your fire preparation. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword there where, you need to be covering all bases and understand that with a bit of tech, someone owns it. Someone owns that position. So it's about writing down from the start your goals to understand that the what if situation, what if it does burn, what if there's no power, and understand what practices, what processes are in and achievable, because you need to be achievable with those.
We're talking about the rural side of it, Vincent, Justin. So we're talking about that from the farming perspective. What about the town-based businesses? Because I mean, obviously, they're very much impacted. They're a small business as well, and I know this from personal experience of working up in your area. A lot of the town-based businesses were sort of hit by surprise with all of the interruptions, and just totally unprepared.
Yeah, well, I'll reflect on what happened, and New Year's Eve, the fires are coming at Corryong. So basically, I'm staying at my property, which is about 22 kilometres away from Corryong. I thought a safe place to go would be Corryong. So I sent my family in. I've got 4 children and my wife Tanya, and they came into town. Little did I know that the fire changed direction and didn't come towards my farm, but it actually came towards Corryong. So I stayed at my property until about 2:30 that evening, and I thought, shit, this is not right. The communications went down because the batteries in the local mobile phone tower failed. So I jumped in the car and took off into town. At that time, everyone's on high nerves. There's fires lapping at the ridge line, and within an hour it crosses that ridge line and heads towards Corryong. It was probably one of the most exposed I've ever seen a town like that. It comes over the hill, and then I said to my wife, well, let's go and understand. Let's go to high ground and understand where this fire is going to run to. So we went to the local town hill, which is called Pales Hill, and my God, it was like the fireworks. Half the community was up there looking at this fire going, oh my God, are we safe? In reflection, the power goes out. So there is now no power in the town. There is low water, so we're running out of water quickly because everyone's got their hoses on, so we're running out of water. Again, with the power going off, it gets scary because there's only so much time your mobile phone tower has battery backup. So communications was very exposed from the period. So in a small business perspective, it was New Year's Eve, so it's a strange time. We are on Christmas holidays and, having a bit of time off. But what happens is the town lifts. From our perspective, that fire's coming at us. I go in there, I've got a couple of phone calls. People are ringing me. They go, we want sprinklers. Yep, come in and get them. How do you book them out? I just write it down. You make it happen because tech, under that situation, we have a certain amount of battery life, but we take photos of things. We identify how to book it out effectively. And then, a lot of people didn't have power supply. So we had generators available. So we made sure that the generators went around to certain people within the community that were exposed. The local petrol supply even ran out of petrol because they couldn't pump it because they needed power. So they needed to hook up a generator to pump the petrol for the fire trucks. So it gets a bit scary.
Yeah, these are all very common things that I've heard from many communities, and I live in the Yarra Valley and experienced it myself with Black Saturday. I guess how do you think the town has, now that there's been time for the dust to settle after the fires, particularly, and although COVID's been there and there's been a major interruption, how do you think it's impacted the town, and also in terms of the people in the town and the businesses in the town to do things differently and to do things better, because we've sort of been forced into doing a lot of things in lots of different ways.
Yeah, it's basically about communication. And from the fires, the demographic, the town's locked out, the roads are blocked. So you've got local trade only. So again, we had to get organised. We had to run shifts so people could come into the town to work. From there, the community rallied together because they could see the local farmers didn't have fences, didn't have feed. So they made sure that everyone was looked after. We look at a greater community. So there are so many people that are in your client base where you need to speak to them. Are you okay? Do you need anything? They'll sort of say, no, I'm right. But underneath it all, you've got to probe and find out what they need, because there's people that were without power for, up to 4 weeks. So their food's gone off. They don't have the basics. So we had to try a little bit, and that's what community's all about. Is we're not pushing, but we're actually asking and giving a hand. There were some beautiful gestures from people external of the Upper Murray, which is the hay runners bringing in the hay for the farmers. But there is a way of getting that out to make sure all the people get some hay. So the local Lions Club, the Rotary, the church, they're all lifting and communicating on that higher level to make sure there is no one slipping through the gaps.
How's that at the moment, Justin? Is that in preparation for the upcoming fire season? How is that continuing? The community spirit strong, community flowing?
Yeah. So they've got local community CRC groups, okay? So community recovery committees. So they're based in the little valleys. How do you eat a whale? Well, you break it up into little bits. So we've been lucky enough that with the recovery from the Vic government, and probably federal, there's been some funding around to get the communities communicating and looking at local issues in a 20k radius, which is really good. So, because we cover a big area, we're valleys and mountains, so you have to drive around all the time. So it's been really good. So it's uncovering more strengths about fire preparedness and also using technology to understand what you've got. Yeah.
So in practical terms, what are some of the technical things that you're referring to there, Justin?
Oh, yeah. So it's understanding communication with fire brigade, communication with your neighbour when the fires are coming. So using call codes, understanding the UHF technology that's out there, making sure, your fire pumps are working and where the fire pumps are located, because at certain periods of time you need to get access to water. So a lot of people are really, having that base model, base plan, which again is definitely helping the recovery because people feel confident. But again, once it warms up, it's going to be back to the same again, because the risk is there is another fuel load out there that we'll have to be very careful about with lightning strikes coming through to this next season.
I just wanted to get on to your advice. You are a small business owner and operator,
Yep.
a family business. What's we're coming up to the end, unfortunately, but what would you be saying to regional small business owners at the moment, both, the ag businesses and farm businesses, but also, as Anthony referred to, the town businesses to, what's your takeout for them on doing better in their business?
Yeah, I think it's about time to pull out a journal. Just write down the what if scenario. What if we did get burnt? Are we insured? Have I got communication set up in place? Have I got alternative power sources in place? Having AgriWeb in our business, we have multiple farms as well that we manage. So we were able to understand, very quickly that we were underinsured on a couple of those properties when the fires hit. So again,
that was using AgriWeb as a service to really, do
your assets.
audit things that, the to-do list of, that can easily overlook when you get busy running the business day to day.
So again, it identifies all your insurable items. So basically your cattle, your hay, your hay sheds. So again, a lot of assets there that need to be identified. So you have a chat with your insurance company and make sure you've got some cover leading into that fire season.
I think, Justin, from my experience and from the stuff that I've developed, disaster really comes down to four areas: planning, preparation, response, and then recovery after that. Yeah. My take on it is that the people who plan and prepare well usually can respond best and have the shortest recovery. Would you agree that that's what you've seen in your area as well?
Definitely. It's a big issue on having a plan. And then after a fire's, you have to get a plan, because it's going to take a good 12 months to 24 months to get yourself back on deck, because the losses are huge. And basically that impacts you emotionally, in your family, and in your community. So again, I really reach out to any community and any business leader is to have a chat with your customers and make sure that they are planning for an event like this.
Yeah, that's a great note to finish on, Justin. Some excellent advice. Thank you, and lived advice. So really appreciate your time today. We've been chatting with Justin Costello from Costello Rural. Appreciate your time. You take care, Justin.
Thank you. Thanks for your time.
So that's all for today's episode of Small Business Banter. Anthony and I continue to be inspired by bringing you small business experts and other small business owners and hearing their stories. For any of the links, resources or information we've talked about on the show today, or to contact Anthony or myself, please head over to smallbusinessbanter.com, or you can find us on both Facebook and Instagram. Anthony and I would love you to tune in at the same time next week for another episode of Small Business Banter.